We were social Kildare. Agus hánig pásar seach chuí go maithe. Hánig sé seach Samaric a hátar dróige flog, bhí sé éis an éfrin. Dúirt sé go raibh a dheithú I bhíosáil.
My mother walked her to the gate and she watched her walking up the road a little bit and then that was it.
Cén aide thógann sé thón mharafóirí go dtí go greideann siad nach méar for ortha. Agus conas mar a bhogan pobl ar aig leis an saoil, agus isacha bhfuil bail ann bhfuil dún mharafóir in a measc. I 1979, bhí pobl na tíre críomhrichte ag an nócht go raibh Phyllis Murphy a bhí 23 bliana d'aois iarraig. In an óin go raibh an gíre a bóire le cíine na líne spreag an droscéal seo pobl Kildare chun dolamon I a chórdach.
It was a very big shock that something like this would happen to a small country town like Kildare. Back in the late 70s, Kildare town would have been a lot smaller than it is now. It would have been more of a village, really.
It was a quiet country area. You had access to Dublin and you had access to the Wicklow Mountains. A grand place to live, really and truly.
There was a great camaraderie in it, really, and everyone knew everyone and very supportive of each other as well,
Oh, it's very much still lives in the town, especially around Christmas. You'd never think it was 40 years ago because it's still so fresh. We had a great childhood in Rowanville. It was a big family. There was 10 children, 7 girls and 3 boys. And Phyllis was third youngest. She probably would have been the quietest. She was very placid, even as a baby. I remember my mother saying she was the best baby because she slept a lot and she loved sleeping if there was music on.
Colleen Anna Cinálta, Anna Canasta, Colleen Alling, bhí si a gcónaí ag tuairt ara do daoine eile, ag smaoineh faoi daoine eile in san clown, a lán grá céad a páistí de ógánaí.
She loved minding children. She'd go around to neighbours, can I bring out your baby for a walk? And when she got older then, she went, say, Lourdes, to look after disabled people.
I'm small, but she would have been one of the few people I was bigger than in this world. I worked in Coronitware or in Newbridge, and we used to socialise together, and she took pride in her work. And where we worked, we made baby clothes. She was in charge of cutting out the patrons, and if you made a mess of one of the things she was after cutting out for you, you'd nearly be afraid to say it to her. But she'd always fix it with a smile on her face for you. She was a very sensible 23-year-old. She was motherly, like you'd think she was more than 23. A rocket sense.
Bhí si tar éis dul chuig cuairt an fápa an saoire sin I mlá clia in 1970. Bhí si ag tosnú ar an saoil is dócha ag raibh leán planane ché freisin don taucí. Bhí si ina cónaí I digs I Kildare. Is dócha gur bhreisí gur raibh saoil slánacha go dtí an lá ina Harlan imeachtaí seo.
Phyllis had been shopping that day and she got her hair done and got a perm.
bí na brontanis nolagacha. Bhí sé 3 lá rivan nolag, so is dócha ag raibh sí ar sketamini.
She was on a high, I believe, from people that met her that day because she was after getting a perm in her hair.
I never saw the perm. She wanted to change and a new look for Christmas.
On her way home, she called to Barbara Luker's house. Now, Barbara Luker was her friend, and Barbara wasn't there.
I was going down to town. I think I went to change a pair of shoes or something. But we weren't supposed to go till 9. And my mother walked her to the gate.
Which was 40, 50 yards from the bus stop. The bus came along, and Phyllis didn't get on the bus.
And that was it. That was the last anyone seen of her. Phyllis was to come home to get ready. And then Barbara was to meet her at the dance at the CYMS hall.
We were going to go and have a drink with Phyllis's father, and then we were going to CY, go to discos as we called them then. But no one had seen her, and I knew it wasn't like her. So I walked down to her sister's, her home place where Martina was living. And I just said it to Martina, and
that's when everyone realised that something was wrong.
Anslí in a raibh rudaí le Phyllis cá meic sí, bheic is a cád am rud ag a dúirt sí bheith mé bháile ag a sé a clog nó a seach de clog, bheic sí sa bháile ag an am sin.
She would never not come home without telling us. We knew instantly there was something happened.
Be Kevin Duran, fear the vunna charna a gunamara, a bhí in a harshin to Kildare, and hiad charda a chuir gar an ólas gribh Phyllis érig.
We were social Kildare. Agus an tíomh fichid go bhríad a dolag, hánig a pásar seach chuí go maithir, hánig se seach sa Méric, a hátar dróig a slog, bhí sé leis an éfrin. Dúirt sé go rá a dheithú I misáil. Bhí post tappa seo ag an nám tá sé bhínis. Bhí sé go a bailach sé bailach seach do had nó. Bhí go siúpi, tefa go na siúpi háda siad a Rosíán, ach seo é bailach bhí sí gáil. Ho céidí na sin, tá san bhóthad bhain. Bhí sam go rá rutakíd an dunda a baint le seo.
She was of such routine and that from the word go, the Murphys knew there was something wrong.
Back then, people used to tumble lift a lot, but Phyllis never would. She definitely always got the bus, unless she knew someone very well and she would take a lift.
Phyllis used to stay in Ratangan and she stayed in Newbridge, so there was a check to see where she was. She wasn't at any location.
There was an announcement on the radio, all right, on Christmas Eve, had anyone seen her. And then Christmas Day, we went searching.
It wasn't a case of a missing person with the Murphys. They were quite clear there was something wrong. So on Garda Síochána picked it up and started searching very, very quick. After the initial searches and she wasn't found, we knew then, from the word go, you knew it, you could feel it, there was something wrong. At the bus stop, we searched and searched. There was no sightings or sign of anything or item found at the bus stop.
It was a dreadful Christmas. None of us really had much of a Christmas. We didn't have our dinner, really. All the lads met up on Christmas Day to go out searching. My brother wanted to go out the Curragh. He just had a feeling. You were searching everywhere. The lads didn't want us, the girls, going out in case we found something. But it was very hard. You could do nothing, only sit at the window all day waiting for the lads to come back and trying to think, where would we look next?
The community started a search, and then on Garda Síochána started a search. And then defence forces and the civil defence, and they all joined together and with an Garda Síochána.
Bhí a lán daoine ag teacht amach, bhí 3,000 duine ar an cordach de Phyllis Murphy, agus cuimhníon gachtainna bhí ar an cordach sin an 6 giomhra a bhí ann.
It was a very, very harsh winter, very cold. It certainly made conditions very harsh for neighbours, family members, friends, work colleagues of Phyllis who were searching door to door, searching fields.
They were the worst days of our lives for that month when she was missing.
A large force of Garda, helped by parties of local people, resumed the search in Kildare this morning for 23-year-old Phyllis Murphy, who has been missing for the past 8 days.
It was a very big thing, and people were so good, and they were coming and they were offering their services, offering cars, and the Red Cross helped out. The local people up to town, restaurants, gave sandwiches for the searchers. It was just like one big family, really, at the time. We went to a diviner who said that she could be around old Kilcullen, but he thought she was alive.
We were just hopeful that we were going to find Phyllis or something belonging to her or something. We didn't really know what was going to be the outcome then. Everyone was living in fear, and I think we were out every day. I was up to Curragh at the time when they found her glove.
Her glove and was found on the Curragh with the bus fare in the glove. And the back of her belt was found on the Curragh, halfway now between Newbridge and Kildare. And then her boots were found. They were found at Corrigan's Cut. That's near the Kildare town. We knew then there was something very, very seriously wrong.
We were very worried at that stage. And they were found, like, kind of a hope then, don't you?
Lehannig an cordach amach dro leifte Híl van Táin, agus le línan cordaí, hanahas a hille ledana táchtacha.
From Kilcullen across through Brannockstown, that's where the presents were found. Presents that she had bought for the Christmas, thrown in over a wall. So the searches continued through Brannockstown up to Hollywood. And then from Hollywood up along towards Turlough Hill. And just short of Turlough Hill, at that little townland, there's a small little bridge. And the bridge is here. And on the Kildare side of that bridge is where the body was found.
Ar an 18 lád mí anar 1980, daim siadar corp Phyllis Murphy. An áitin ar aimsiú í ná Ballinagree, an talamh a bhí in San Barna Kilowantán, anna ar gúilta.
The day she was found, we heard it on the radio.
Garda, investigating the disappearance of the County Kildare factory worker since before Christmas, have found the body of a young woman in the Wicklow Mountains, but positive identification hasn't yet been made.
An cheiste bhí an bobbal in ish ná conas a hála sé go raibh Phyllis 17 kilometr ón áit dhearnach a Vacasí, agus céib a chúis lena dún bharú.
Phyllis Murphy left this house just after 6:30 on the night of the 22nd of December. She had called here to see her workmate Barbara to arrange to go to a dance later that night. She left the house and walked up to the bus stop opposite the Cadine Hotel. That was the last time anyone saw her.
Glach breis agus 3,000 duine páirt a gcórdach Phyllis Murphy. Fithe 8 láníos déanaí, hána has faoi dhearra ar chorp Phyllis, a bhí caite i measc na grán is sléite híl vantáin. Tris tá bertre hárdal suas chun na corpa ahint, hána siad a bhaile go dtíon glán.
We asked him, had she clothes on? And it said yes. And then it came on the radio.
The body was found just before 12 o'clock today, lying in woodland about 15 feet from the side of the main Hollywood to Turlough Hill road, a mile from Wicklow Gap. The woman was naked, and an attempt using twigs had been made to hide the body from view. The state
They got so upset.
Bhí corp Phyllis Murphy caite isteach I measc na crín. Bhí sí nochtathe, bhí sí tachtathe agus déanú ionsu gnéis orthaí.
She was badly beaten. She fought. She was badly beaten and raped and strangled.
I can just imagine the fight that she did put up. No, it wouldn't surprise me because she took pride in herself. And if anyone, she'd put up a fight.
The funny thing was, when she was found, it snowed. It snowed the day after, which it was amazing, really, because if it had snowed before that, she would never have been found. And it was great. It was absolutely brilliant to find her and be able to bury her. They asked us not to look at the body. So they closed the coffin. They didn't want us seeing her.
She had a huge funeral. I think everyone in Kildare and Newbridge was at it.
The funeral was so sad, especially with the snow falling and that.
Bhí an gíomhra anna fór agus is cuimhin le muintir na háite agus le clown Phyllis 19 agus 19 an gíomhra sin ach cabhraigh sé sin go mór mhór le na Gardaí.
We were lucky in the sense that her Phyllis was found. It was so cold up in the mountains that she was protected. Had it been warmer, there would have been no soft tissues and no evidence. That'll be it.
Phyllis's body was lying about 30 yards in off the road. Her body was total and it was preserved by the weather.
Agus corp Phyllis fachta, hosig fisrúchan dún bharathe, agus gach achfin a bhí ag na Gardaí síochána díirithe heachtar an taobh a chúis na bás.
When a murder investigation starts, there'll be search party squad, there'll be questionnaire squad, there'll be a ballistics team working, there'll be photography. So they'd coordinate, and then the investigation body. So I was part of the investigation body, and we would investigate the leads that would come in, who to see and who to interview.
Tháinig led nuas an Isrúcháin ón Sergeant Kevin Duran, a bhí dul ó Horas go doras le Ceisnóirí. An seachtú lád a bhí anar 98, thug sé cuairt thach an ír haidúra John Crerar, a bhí ag an amsin a gobar mar art sláándála.
Dyna mé. Bhí John in the haidúr sa Garda. Agus rinne bheith go leor ag fairis ag gampfan chora. Bhí bheith teagil go mór le military police. Bheith hefa suas an chora lá. Bheachas ag John é sin. Bheachas ag John go bheith an go leor. Líon bheith i teis. A rhaid tú Phyllis, ní rhaid. Ceir tú dí sin, bhí bheith gobir.
John Crear was a security guard in the Black & Decker factory, just on the edge of Kildare town. He was working there at the time of the disappearance.
Bhí sé pósta, bhí burt páiste óga ag an am, bhí sé níos sin ná Phyllis Murphy, bhí simige in sna Rásí Capel, bhí simige dul amach sna tithe tarna in isise sa ríis agus níor tháinig sé faoi thúil na Gardaí ag an am sin.
He was due to begin his night shift on the night that Phyllis disappeared from the bus stop in Newbridge.
Agus Crerar ag freagart ceistena, tháinig áras an Sergeant Duran, agus scríb sé nóta breise cheistnóir Crerar.
I recommend that his story should be checked. Sy'n ei chaffi gor sy'n efisio agus fi ansgyd am ffisio chon dyrig. Fi fe gael iad y sy'n y lig bazera. Dyn y fehe bazera. I ogi sy'n ddysio. Sy'n caffach ein.
Agus na Gardaí a ceistnú agus a fisrú hart, dhéannig Crerar go raibh alibi láidirige.
John Crear was given an alibi by his workmates. They said John Crear was present at 8 o'clock at night in the hut and remained there all night and worked with them.
Mar chuid an Visrúcháin dún bharathe, bhailg na Gardaí samplaí fulla ó ir na háite.
People who had no alibis, through no fault of their own. I mean, it is very hard to remember where you were, and we could have been asking a person a month after the case, where were you a month ago? They might have been in the area where items were found, or they might have been walking down the road at the time that the bus stopped. Just to eliminate them, these samples were taken.
Cé go raibh alibi láidirige, thug John Crerar sampla fulla go dónach agus leis sin a DNA. Ach le technoliacht DNA fós faoi orbert ag an am, níor chomhraigh na samplaí seo leis na Gardaí brethe réandaine.
Killer is still on the loose, and he's reminded of it as much as we are, much more.
I think it's worse that we feel we know him, you know, that we could be talking to him every day, maybe once a week, talking to him sometime anyway.
Corram is blian ón áma de mig Phyllis éirig, chuig a chathair a drifúr Barbara agus a drithar Michael an telefís, ag impíar chuoine tacht chun cín le hólas.
My brother, that's in Australia now, he made an appeal, and myself. And it was heartbreaking for Daddy.
I wonder how would he feel? His sister. If it happened to his sister, or his mother, or father. I wonder how would he feel? Go along there and find his sister murdered. Or has he any conscience?
Daddy never got over it. He didn't go back to work or anything. He just, I remember there was a party. He went up and then he just came home. He just couldn't even go out for a drink or anything.
Níor tháinig éon ólas nua ná finnéthe suntasacha chun solis ón impí sin, agus leis sin d'éirigh an fisrú fuór.
With Daddy, he was trying to keep all right for the rest of us. We had to keep hiding the newspapers from him because he got so upset. I was really, really glad my mother was dead because she could never have coped with it. He was never the same after anyway, so he was only 67 when he died, so it did have an effect on him.
Níachame e seán a riamh suin me cup dúmarú. Níachame seán a riamh rod net it brón agus trúi ag díine go chuine sa bhí go Phyllis Murphy. Hó na díine ag isteach an na grúi. Bhí si bhuaig sin button le chudran.
Jeannie, you knew you wanted to try and solve this for the good of the community, for the good of the people, and for the good of Garda Síochána. Living in the community at that time, you felt you were letting people down. You know, you wanted to solve the crime, and you could be jeered at too. You can't solve Phyllis Murphy's murder, but you can do this. So you took that on the chin. That was part of life.
Dá bheith Garda retire agus dá bheith dhia. Crucifixion is it go Garda ágad dúnmhairú a den dhia.
This killer during this time was living a double life of being probably a family man, with going home to his wife and kids every day, and also holding down a job with work colleagues. And none of these people had any idea of the terrible act he had carried out.
I think the worst day of all was when I seen the results of the inquest on the newspaper. That was horrendous. All the injuries and what she went through, and that had an awful effect on us. She was raped and she was badly beaten and bruised, and I think around 30 injuries. The fact that she was raped was really the worst thing of all, because Phyllis was the type that was determined she was going to be a virgin when she got married.
Chuir an chuir seo isteach go mór phobal Kildare, ach go háirithe na maná áitiúla.
I was frightened because I know I didn't go out for a long time after. My mother used to say to me she'd walk me to the bus and meet me off at the bus, but we were all scared to go out. You'd never see a woman walking out on her own after that. The rows and pairs, and you would never think it was going to happen in your town or to someone you knew even.
Everybody knew it was someone she knew. So it was obviously someone they knew too, so that left great fear.
Agus freisin bhí sé an dachar ar na fur a thug samplaí freisin, a thug samplaí foiil agus samplaí dus na Gardaí, agus bhíidir faoi áras sa stóca, agus bhíidir ag éirí a anam a glána.
Sa cásan bhí blianta sa de berachir, cad gur leanan in níos an araig an tamar fad, nuair an sais fatíis son ar an phobal cagfa sin aníon ar fad.
What you'd be passing by the scene and you might say, oh, I wonder who is he? You talk about cold cases. Phyllis Murphy was never a cold case. It never went away. Never went away.
You were interviewing other criminals in relation to different crimes, and you just wonder someday would someone say something that would trigger something for you. That's the way you lived, and that's the way you worked.
In 1997, tharla rá achtra a chur borra faoi chás Phyllis. An chéadal síos, tháinig duine don phobal chun cín le hólas.
One night a person came to my hall door, and as a result of what that person told me, I opened a line of inquiry that we hadn't been down that road before.
An dara hachtra ban fisrúchan náisiúnta a doscail commissioner na Gardaí, Pat Byrne.
Operation Trace, which was looking at the disappearance of women in the Leinster area, also looked at the murder of Phyllis Murphy. And this operation gave fresh impetus to the Garda investigation into the murder.
But Pat Byrne, Commissioner of the Shekana, for in the mark, a breath was cheered, a doon marry, 4 cold cases. Agus hardly to the shop. So we are now as again said, Tony Hickey. Agus, we should the breath was, because hardly had passed that, which has to near Bajetta. Because though he got on Commissioner Law, so those magnum. Go back and Commissioner Pat Byrne and just his chief at war and was today because GS road take his chief of Hasid, I said war is today. Well, said go she's go for back way. Go she's go Jada go for back way take his chief say.
Hannig forbert vor frofilu DNA sna naideag nóchadi, agus chaurig sé seo go mór le fisrúchan na Gardaí.
I níideach 8 chuig mé gobar san Garda go dtí Ceannaras I Balla Clia san Garda Technical Bureau. An lá go fuarach an corp bhí mé gobar stáisiún níos. San níideach nócadaí bhí Alan Forbert margheall DNA. Agus an sin tosnig mé ag obair dúnmharú Phyllis Murphy I níideag nócha seacht. Gan am sin ní raibh is agam cá raibh na samplaí.
Bhí na bun samplaí fola a tógad an 8 agus a chuinnig Finbar McPaul a deisce go sábháilte is stáisiún na Gardaí a Kildare, riochtanach in nolchan cín chás Phyllis.
Finbar was the superintendent's clerk, and he was very thorough man, and he retained these samples in a locker, post-mortem samples and the blood samples, and he put the key of that locker on his own belt.
There was 17 tubes. Each tube contained a swab, and in addition to that I had stain cards, blood stain cards, and each card had a name and a date.
Bhí swabana os corp agus bhí samplaí fuil margheall suspects a bhí an ag an am sin. Bhí sé cumad de cart ag Garda Finbar McPaul.
The swabs were of critical importance, and the bloodstains, that was kind of closing the door. If the door never closed anyway, because Phyllis was always foremost in our minds, really, you know.
We didn't realise at the time that we were going into a field of DNA way back 20 years on. That time the blood sample was used as an elimination process, but they were retained, and that was the beauty of the case, you know.
Tógad na samplaí go sasanna le fisrú ar bhéidir péráil a dhéanamh.
Tar éis tamil fuair mé gléach go raibh match agus dúirt sé anam an duine.
On the morning of the arrest, I went to alert members of the family of impending news flashes. As the sisters arrived, they said, "Oh, sure," when they heard the name, sure, Phyllis would have babysat for him, and they would have babysat for him.
It was a shock in a way, and at the same time it wasn't a shock, because we knew it was going to be someone we knew.
On the 13th of July, 1999, 20 years after the murder, I went to a stud farm in Kildare, and I arrested John Creer for the murder of Phyllis Murphy. He got a shock, really. He went very quiet, didn't speak, just went very quiet, as if he was deflated, you know.
It was good to know, after that length of time, who did it, and could close that side of it.
This arrest sent shockwaves through the community. People that had known John Creer had known him as a man of 5 kids who was holding down a job. He was then working in security at a stud farm, who had never come to Garda attention before, and who was known to be a regular guy playing darts, having a pint in his local pub.
The next day, I charged John Creer with the murder of Phyllis Murphy, and I brought him before Naas District Court, and a crowd had gathered outside the courthouse.
Bhí muintir na hoite ag géirí an fear seo a eáil. Bhí a lán pínans an counter freisin nuair smaoiníonn tú faoi an méid poibliacht a bhí ann, freisin de bhar na fear in san cóphobal a bhí faoi áras freisin. So bhí fearragur a lán daoine agus bhí idir ag géirí bheith ann nuair a gabh John Creer agus sin mar a hála bhí scata mór daoine ann.
Of course, everyone in the town was glad to know anyway who did it.
Tar éis dóibh John Creer a gháil an tríúládíag de bhí Iúil 1999, hí na Gardaí ábalta faoi dheire a dhéanamh amach cad é go díreach a hála an tarna lá fichead de bhí na nollag an lá fuadaíag Phyllis Murphy.
An dara lá is fichead do mí na nollag I 1970. Bhí John Creer ag carú lena ban céile, bhí idir ag dul ag siopadóireacht in san dreithid nua. Agus ar a dil sé ar an teach beidir níos déanaí bharrtaigh sé dul go dtí Macways, teach tarna áitiúil. Bhí sé le dul ag obair mar fear slándála in san phlan de Black and Decker níos déanaí hartar a 8 clog an tróna sin. Ina dhéag an pionta Macways is tóca gur Hamáin John Creer go dtí stad an bhos ar beidir go raibh sé Tamán Hart níla míad cinnte. Ach tá is a gcuin go raibh Phyllis Murphy ag stad an bhos hartar a 25 tar éis a sé. Tar éis sin is dóilinn go raibh si in san glúisteáin le John Creer. Bhí brontanis ché agus nírág sí na brontanis híos níocha aon den na trid nó aonrad mar sin céir de hála in sna nóméid an sin ag stad an bhos níla míad cinnte. Dearan John Creer nach raibh aithne ige riamh ar Phyllis Murphy, ach tá is a gcuin nach bhfuil se sin fear mar bhí Phyllis Murphy ag tuairt ara do páistí John Creer. Agus beidir go raibh sí sásta siab a ghlacha, bhí a lán málaí ché agus mar sinne, ach bhí a clán anna soléir nach meic sí sásta dul isteach sa glúisteáin le sráinséir.
It would appear that the car was driven onto the Curragh, that Phyllis ran from the car. Her glove was dropped with the money in it, and he must have grabbed her belt because the belt was found on the ground as well. So obviously there was an effort to get away shortly after she got into the car, and that effort was made between Kildare town and Newbridge.
Hála cúpla rudaí a raibh fíorthábhachtach len an cás seo a cruthú, rud amháin, DNA, rud eile, rátas Paddy Bulger, dathraigh sé a rátas, agus de bhí sé alibi do John Creer.
A rihan chéad is rúcháin thug Cara Creer Paddy Bulger alibi dó, agus dúirt sé lógur Chris Creer an obair ag a 8 chlog an ihe sin.
So it transpired later on that John Creer wasn't there at 8 o'clock. John Creer didn't arrive in until after 9 o'clock or 9:30.
At the end, do so John, go on, check out case thought so son hus like you back a decker.
He washed the boot of his car, washed it out on the site.
Juice John Doe go Chavanya Segal.
And while in the Garda station, I asked and I obtained from him another DNA sample. There was blood sample and hair samples. That was a crucial sample because that sample matched a blood sample that John Creer had given in 1980. It matched the sample taken from the body, and it was taken in 1999. So it copper fastened the DNA.
An 8ú lá de dhearra fór chavílegus a dó, beag nach 23 bliana in I chun varú Phyllis, fórachas ciúntach an té a varigi.
It took a long time, but eventually we had it, the court case, and we all went up every day.
Creer was in the army for several years. During the murder trial, Creer was very disciplined in his defence. He answered questions very carefully.
Ragar sé na ceisne malach ar nós se agus ní ha agus an dain, yes sir, no sir. Sin an sais duine a bhí ann, ach de héin sé gachrod.
Míon sais féinúlacht again, agus bíonn sé sin á ahant ag na díanamh timppláirin. Agus má féinúlacht le meas gur duine matú agus é sin á ahant ag gachta na timppláirt, well an son credfáid sin, agus is dachar an sais scéal son, mai alert féin a bhrisean, you know. Agus beit bhfuil sé níos éasca dá, an sais chách taobh dá saoil a chamád a sais I chá bhosca de friú nach mór. Is dachar at the bháil, nuair credan díanamh gur fearmachánta dá.
During the trial, there may have been concerns that all this DNA evidence was so new that the jury may not see it as conclusive proof that Creer carried out the murder.
The way they talk in court, you think he's going to get away with it. So we weren't really confident until it was announced.
After a 5-week trial, fought tooth and nail, John Creer was convicted of the murder of Phyllis Murphy.
We all just cried, really, when we heard the verdict, and everyone cried. All the guards cried, the bus driver cried, everybody cried.
And we were all happy. Well, not happy, but happy that he was getting what he deserved at last.
It was a great feeling to have it over with.
Tá sais scamal haar timppel na hoite freisin. Bhí a lán cásna eile in san counter. Agus bhí a lán cásna haar timppel Kildare, Kilkennig, Carlock. Tá ceistin ag na Blachtarí, tá ceistin ag na Gardaí, tá ceistin ag mná na Héireann agus ag an pobl freisin. Tá ceistin a fós aghain faoi céir de hála in sna blianta sin.
Chuil bás Phyllis Murphy go mór phobal Kildare agus na Gardaí siochána. In anóin an bhróin a bhí le brasiciantar a fegnam léanta fada, hána sé le chéile mar phobal agus iad máte chorram na féine áilde. Mar an cuine Phyllis le na clán, a Garda agus na Gardaí a chreidir a son.
We didn't want her forgotten. We wanted the true story of what she was really like to come out. We never wanted it just a murder case.
About 20, between 20, 21 maybe. She's very happy looking now. She'd probably be a granny now with kids.
Every year I'd go up to where Phyllis is, and I'd lay a reed there. We can't forget her.
It was the cooperation of the public and the cooperation of everybody that solved the crime. It was a combination of knowledge and good work put together, really and truly.
There was no solo run in this case. It was everyone played a part. The chain was formed and the links were put on it, and I was only one link. You know, there was other links. It was a big chain.
Senator Puebe Sean Feely, Chief Superintendent. You were the first person to identify Creator as a suspect on the 7th of January 1980, when you wrote on the questionnaire, would recommend that the story be checked. Kevin, you solved the murder, you solved the murder, you solved the murder. Okay. Du say on Fokalele, Phyllis Murphy. Phyllis Murphy. Jump on McCrae.